In today's show, the Trailblazers come out of the All-Star break, suffer a historic beatdown at the hands of the Denver Nuggets, and then Deni Avdija gets injured again. Welp, welcome to Locked On Blazers. Let's get into it.
You are Locked On Trailblazers, your daily Portland Trailblazers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
What's up, world? It's your past first point guard and Trailblazers reporter, Mike Richmond. You're listening to another episode of Locked On Blazers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, available wherever you get podcasts and also on YouTube. Thanks for making this show your first listen, coming at you each and every weekday, Monday through Friday, so make it a part of your daily routine. Make it your first listen. Tell your friends to do the same. It's Locked On Blazers, your team every day. In today's show, we're discussing some pretty much bummer news coming out of the All-Star break. The Blazers lose by 54 freaking points to the Denver Nuggets immediately out of the break. Bounce back on Sunday with a win. The Deni Avdija played all of 59 seconds in before leaving, re-aggravating a now long-standing back injury he just can't shake. They beat the Suns, though. Well, the game was not good. It was not an enjoyable game to watch necessarily, but they did indeed get a victory in the end. This is just not exactly how you wanted it to go. I think if the results had been this, you wouldn't have been, hey, they split Phoenix and Denver and whatever. But like the way they played against the Suns, the loss of Denny, the like historic level 54-point loss. Just about as tough as you could make it happen. We'll get into both those games, recap and all of them everything that happened in both of those games. We will talk Denny's injury, how they proceed from here, kind of how they got here to begin with, and what's ahead for them as they return home for the T-Wolves on Tuesday night. Let's start with the Nuggets on Friday. Down 43 points with 2 minutes and 4 seconds remaining in the third quarter. Thiago Splitter won a challenge. It was the only victory the Blazers had all night. They lose 157-103. That's your fastest recap in the West. Flash forward to Sunday. We'll talk about that Nuggets game, but we don't need to spend much time in the nitty-gritty. Gross. Flash forward to Sunday. Fast forward? I don't think you flash forward. Fast forward to Sunday. Blazers playing the Suns. Deni Avdija pops up on the injury report over the weekend. On the Saturday evening injury report, Deni Avdija is listed as questionable with back injury management. That's bad news. That's bad news because he had the entire All-Star break. Or not an entire, I guess he played in the All-Star game. He very specifically had to participate in something, but he had a week away from NBA basketball because he didn't play on the Thursday right before the All-Star break. He had a full week away from NBA basketball. In the All-Star game, he ran around a little bit, but if he can't do that, then he's like really, really injured, and I think he's just not quite there. But he was no injury designation going into that game against the Nuggets. Nothing, not on the injury report. Treated as a clean bill of health. And the game didn't get to the point where it's like, is Denny playing a ton of minutes and blah, blah, blah. He's just like, he had an okay box score game against the Nuggets. I don't think he played particularly well, but just to see him on the injury report, it's just already bad news. Your ears are perking up if you follow it closely, as I am both accustomed and cursed to do. Oh, that's no good. But Denny does end up getting cleared to play, and they're playing against a Phoenix Suns team that is deeply shorthanded. Phoenix played a Saturday matinee against the Orlando Magic, a 3 o'clock local start in Phoenix on a Saturday. Sounds delightful. But in that game, 7 minutes into the game, then in the first quarter, Dylan Brooks broke his hand, and now he's out indefinitely. Devin Booker got hurt coming right out of the All-Star break, hurt his hip, and now he's out for a few weeks. Grayson Allen's on the injury report. He's questionable with right knee and ankle management, and that will cause him to miss Sunday's game against the Blazers. The Suns, who in that game against Orlando just couldn't score at all, 96 points in regulation, game with 2 overtimes to get them to triple digits, but 96 points in regulation. They just, they're missing their best offensive players. They just can't score. A pretty good defensive team all year, but it's going to be bumpy without their guys. And the Blazers, they look to be whole until 59 seconds into the game. Denny Avdija signals that he has to leave. catch the ball in the post, goes up into some very normal post-up physicality, right? Catches it, starts to back his man down, kicks back out to Donovan Clingan, and as he kind of kicks it back out, just grabs his low back and starts walking slowly to the bench, leaves the game, and walks off the court. A very normal basketball bump, but clearly wasn't ready, took himself out of the game, and that's the end of Denny's night, 59 seconds in. This basketball game was gross, 20-20 after one. Blazers start pulling away in the second quarter. The offense was totally fine. They made shots, they made threes, they shot very well, but they turned the ball over 6 times. And when they turn the ball over 6 times, you're not going to have unless you're forcing a bunch of turnovers on the other end, you're just not going to have as many opportunities to shoot. And it didn't matter. So they were only up 7 at halftime. Suns have now scored 20 points in both quarters, 40 at halftime. It would get worse. The Suns score 17 in the third quarter. Blazers lead by as many as 20, but they don't blow the game like totally open. They don't turn this into an absolute no doubt about it blowout because they turn the ball over another 7 times. Suns got as close as 11 twice in the fourth quarter, but never truly threatened. The Blazers cruise in the end, 92-77. That's your fastest recap in the West. So the Blazers in back-to-back games, pretty incredible, gave up a $157. That's 157 points, and then 77. Let's start with my general concerns over what happened on Friday against the Denver Nuggets. The Blazers were down 29 at halftime and never got closer. Think about that for a second. They go into the half down 29. Yikes, you're down 29 at the break, 82-53. They play 24 more minutes. The Nuggets starters aren't going to play in the fourth quarter. I guess Julian Strother did because they're a little light on guys, but they're missing Aaron Gordon and Peyton Watson. But never closer than 29 in the entire second half. They lose by 54, the second largest margin of victory for any team in the league this year. Shout out to Charlotte over the Utah Jazz. So most points scored by any team in the NBA this season when the Denver dropped 157. And the Denver Nuggets, coached by Doug Moe, famously the one, fastest high scoring offense of the 80s, scored the most points on the road in franchise history, $157 in the year of Mo Harkless. 2026, 157 points in 2026. Right out of the gates, Nikola Jokic, they had lost the night before, and they had a chance to win and they lost. You kind of knew that they would play with some purpose, right? And when Jamal Murray was cleared to play, he's like, yeah, this is a good team. You're gonna play a good team, but with a rest advantage. The Blazers hadn't played in a week. The Nuggets had played 24 hours earlier and had to fly up from LA. Jokic goes nuts early, 19 in the first quarter, but the Blazers just shot so well in the first half. They made 7 threes in the first quarter and 11 in the first half, but they just didn't play with any purpose on defense. There's obvious caveats here. Let's be clear about the sort of obvious caveats. Nikola Jokic is the best player in the world. He is. He's the best player in the world. He's incredible. He's just... There's no real way to deal with him. If you put a big guy on him, he'll go past him. If you try to put a small guy on him, say, Toumani Camara, he's too strong. If you switch, he'll punish switches. If you double team, he's the best passing big and maybe just one of the best passers, period, in the history of the sport. He's probably, no exaggeration, he's easily one of the 10 best passers that have ever played in the National Basketball Association. He's certainly the best passing big man. He's brutal. He'll beat you at 1 mile an hour, and then he'll rev it all the way up to 35 and beat you at speeding in a school zone speeds. He's incredible. The other caveat is that the Denver Nuggets shot the freaking lights out. They made more than half their threes. And they weren't shy about getting them up, and they made 51% of them, 21 of 41 from three. It's a bonkers shooting night. But the Blazers didn't lose by 18. They didn't lose by 25. They didn't lose by 35. They lost by 54. And so my worry about this is not they don't know how to guard Jokic, whatever. Outlier shooting night, whatever. Sure. My worry is that they didn't. This is just everything is so clearly on the table for them, right? It's if you play a little bit better on defense and you get, and you take care of business and play the way you're capable of playing against the bad teams, you can maybe get into 9th. You could maybe climb up all the way to 8th. You could put yourself in position to, be at least a little bit of a pest in games that matter in April. This is the time to play with purpose, the time to play with focus, the time to play with urgency, and the Blazers had none of it. And that reflects badly on everybody. First and foremost, I think, when a team plays with that level of, like when another team is just so clearly focused and determined and you're getting bullied down 29 at halftime, that falls on the coaching staff. That you get them prepared to be engaged. And then it falls on the players. What is your responsibility? What is your like sort of willingness to do what is hard in this league? What is your willingness to compete? I thought the Blazers just never had played with any force on offense. Like the defense is one thing, right? They've struggled on defense all year, but the Blazers average 41.7 paint attempts per game on the season. 40. That's all shots in the restricted area, and also like those floater range shots from up to about 14 feet to the foul line, but all in the painted area shots. They average 42 a game, 41.7. They took 27 against the Nuggets. They just never established any level of rim pressure. And how you beat this team is you get downhill and you make Jokic guard, and you make them, they don't have a bunch of size, right? They just, I thought Denny was just, Denny had a nice box score game, had a bunch of assists in the first half because the Blazers made 11 threes, but like, he never was a force. His superpower was never on display. I thought Scoot Henderson never got downhill. Those were their best two rim pressure guys. Neither of them existed. If Jeremy Grant played in this game, I don't remember it. I just do not recall Jeremy Grant's presence in the game against the Nuggets. They took for the game, the Blazers took 17 shots in the restricted area against the Nuggets. 17. That's inside 4 feet, like inside the charge circle. They averaged 28 a game. They just didn't do anything. They didn't do anything to get to the rim. They didn't get out and run. They turned the ball over. They gave up a ton of offensive rebounds, and they gave up, and they couldn't stop Jokic, and then he picked them apart, and they spread it out and hit threes. I thought Jokic was great, and Murray was great, and Julian Strother was great, and I don't think anyone of the Blazers played well, and I thought they got punked, and getting punked out of the break like that is embarrassing, and then they come back, and Denny gets hurt. Yikes. Let's talk about that and Denny's injury, and they're not in a great spot, guys. They're not in a great spot, y'all. They're not in a great spot. Let's talk about it in the second segment. Join me there, won't ya? First, though, let's talk Prize Picks. Shoot your shot on Prize Picks and get $50 instantly in lineups when you play your first $5. That's right. Prize Picks is giving you $50 in lineups when you sign up and play your first $5 lineup. You don't even have to get it right. You don't got to win. Prize Picks makes every dunk, every dime, and every board that much more exciting. It's America's #1 app for sports picks. Prize Picks is simple to play. You just pick more or less on 2 to 6 player stat projections, and if your picks are right, you cash in. You can play the NBA if that's what you're familiar with, but you can also mix and match sports, baseball, hockey, soccer, UFC, and more. Plus, they got features like early payouts and flex play, so you've got options while the games are still happening. You can download the app and get started, make your first lineup in a couple minutes from the moment you sign up. You can pick all Trailblazers in your lineups. You can make a whole, pick from the entire NBA. But it's super simple. It's picking more or less on things like assists, points, rebounds, steals. It is super simple to get started and super intuitive to get into. So download the Prize Picks app today and use the code LOCKEDONNBA to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code LOCKEDONNBA. Get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks. It's good to be right. Today's show is also brought to you by FanDuel. You ever want to go to the NBA Finals? Well, FanDuel's giving you a chance to turn that dream into reality. Here's how it works. Use your profit boost on any NBA future. You'll automatically be entered for a shot to win an NBA Finals trip for 2. That's right. Flights, tickets, the whole experience. So find a futures bet you like. That is a bet on something that will happen in the future in the NBA. Who's going to win the finals? Who's going to make the Western Conference Finals? Who's going to come out of the East or the West and play in the finals together? Make your futures bet that you like. And you're not only going to have a chance to win some money, if you're correct, you're also going to have a chance to go to the NBA Finals. So visit FanDuel.com to get started. Use your profit boost on an NBA future and get entered for a chance to win a trip to the NBA Finals. Play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. All right. Thanks for making this show your first listen. If you're listening to this game after a bummer weekend, I know you're a real one. If you're a real one, make it official. Join the Locked On Everydayer Club. Get access to an ad-free version of this podcast in your audio feeds. Plus, You can chat with me in the members only Discord. Sign up in the link in the show notes, lockedonblazers.supercast.com. Okay. The Suns game, I don't feel as like the Denver game was troubling because it was embarrassing and it was a beatdown, and it reflects poorly on like coaching staff ability to get guys to sort of buy into the plan, how sort of focused this team is with what's on the line, or do they feel kind of how maybe some of you feels like, yeah, I mean, they're going to be 10th. Hey, we're going to be 10th. Or was that just a one-off sort of game of a little bit of arrogance against a really good team that was motivated, and you just get punked, and you got punked extra super hard because you lost by 54. I just, like, if they lost by 30, that'd be one thing. I don't think 54 is like a normal shrug it off game, right? It's happened once. This was only the 17th time in league history that a team scored 125 points through three quarters. The Nuggets had 41, 41, and then 43 points in the opening three quarters. $125 through three quarters. It is only the 8th time in the 21st century, the 17th time since 1946, according to Basketball References data. It's just bonkers game. Much more worried about than the Suns game. The Suns game was just gross mostly. Just like I think that was like the actual issue with the Suns game was gross. And credit where it's due. I mentioned that I didn't recall Jeremy Grant participating at all in the in the game against Denver. He played pretty well against the Suns. In fact, he had a rebound in the fourth quarter that ruined what was otherwise going to be just a glorious Jeremy Grant box score. He had 23 points, 1 assist, 1 steal, 1 block, but unfortunately he got a second rebound. Two boards, 1 assist, 1 steal, 1 block, 23 points on 9 of 13, hit 3 threes. Donovan Clingan was really good. The Suns, they played... Mark Williams only played 15 minutes, and then they played a little bit of Oso Ighodaro, they played a little bit of Kamen Malawach. They played small a little bit, and I thought when they played small, Clingan did a good job of just being like, I'm gonna wander to the front of the rim, throw me a lob. He had 2 offensive rebounds. Both of those offensive rebounds he converted into points. That's a big sort of efficiency thing with Donovan. That's a big deal. So I think both those guys played well. I think Toumani Camara played well enough in that game. I thought Scoot looked okay early, but ended up, 11 points on 4-14, 11 points on 14 shots to go with 4 turnovers, didn't make his threes. Scoot has not had a very good out of the break stretch, and they're going to need him now. That's the other thing is they're just going to need more from Scoot. I thought notably another Scoot thought here is he didn't start the third quarter, even without Denny in the game. I think that's to preserve the first sub rotation, because him and Rob come in and it just makes that first sub a little bit simpler. I will be disappointed if Denny misses a chunk of games or even a Tuesday's game and they don't just start Scoot. I understand that you need ball handling in both units. It gives you point guards in both units. That's a pretty easy thing to solve with the first sub. Take Drew Holiday out and put him back in. Wow, I figured it out. It's pretty simple. Have Drew be the first, and if Drew doesn't want to because that's not his rhythm, have Scoot be the first guy out and bring him back in. If you want to have 2 ball handlers in at all times, well, you don't have that anyways, because Danny's gone and you just don't have a lot of dudes who can dribble. But that's a conversation for another time. On Denny's injury, I think, so Denny's been dealing this with on and off for many weeks now, right? He first got hurt against the Knicks on January 11th. It's February 22nd. Well, obviously, there was a little bit of time off with the All-Star break, but over a month of this sort of nagging injury. And when they finally kind of convinced him to take time off, and he did take it, comes back and misses, 7 of 9 games, and then comes back, and they finally convinced him to take a full week off. Denny admitted when he returned in that game and looked pretty good, particularly in that second half, he was freaking incredible. But that was against Philly. He admitted I had to be convinced to it was hard. That was me and the coaching staff, and the medical staff kind of they were saving me for myself because I really, really want to play. And I think that's the challenge here, right? Is that Deni Avdija has been really durable since his rookie season. He's played a ton of games. He prides himself on playing a ton of games. I've heard him say it. Like, that matters to him to be out there. He wants to play. And so kind of what they're dealing with here is this sort of like tough balance of saying, it's for the most part, I assume at this point, he's not going to have like, I don't know. It doesn't seem like this is like a surgical thing or like whatever. But when Chris Murray had a back injury, I saw him moving around very gingerly in the locker room, and he didn't play for a month, right? And like he was ruled out and didn't play for a month. I've seen Denny move a little bit gingerly in the locker room, and but also like he's just like better than Chris Murray, so he's going to play more even when he's available. But like he's going to have his, he's going to play his minutes if he's available, but like he wants to play. I'm not saying that Chris Murray doesn't want to play, but I'm saying what they're fighting against is not like that the coaching staff and the franchise is like forcing Denny out there to drag them into the postseason. I think what they're battling is a competitive dude, and he has said it as much from his mouth, right? Like that is his sort of mindset. But I think they're facing a hard truth here, is that like he can't get right. He just can't shake this. So what do you do? And what is at stake if they do the obvious thing, which is give him a chunk of time off to see if that can get him right? Let's talk about that in the third segment. Join me there, won't ya? First, though, it's tax season. You know the deal. It can take over your life. But this year, TurboTax is making it easier than ever to just hand things off and move on with your day. Don't let tax season dominate you. Instead, with TurboTax Full Service, you can have your taxes done for you by a trusted local expert start to finish without the guesswork. Instead of spending hours trying to figure out forms, you can meet with a local TurboTax expert in person or connect online. They're going to handle everything from W-2s to self-employed forms, and they're going to work to get you every deduction. Upload your documents, go about your day, and you can get updates right in the app if you want. It's a huge time saver and gives you real peace of mind knowing that an expert is handling all of it for a limited time. You can have your taxes done by a local TurboTax expert for just $150 all in. If a TurboTax expert didn't file your taxes last year, got to just file by February 28th. Take taxes off your plate and get back to your life. Visit turbotax.com/local to book your appointment today. Still a pass first point guard. I'm still Mike Richmond, and you are still listening to Locked On Blazers. So, what is the path forward here with Denny? Because he clearly, they've tried to give him time, and thus far he has not been able to shake the lingering effects of this injury. I assume it's mostly just pain tolerance and discomfort, but the way he got hurt against the Suns, it's like very normal basketball thing. Kind of gets bumped a little bit and just knows that he can't play. Immediately takes himself out of the game, right? Immediately takes himself out of the game. That's troubling because, obviously you're going to want to play through it. There was a game earlier this year where, Tiago Splitter said he saw Denny kind of reach for his back and, pulled him out, and he didn't play after halftime. But, it kind of, at some point, the team has to say to Denny, nah, you tried to say you could play through it, and we tried to give you a turbo. He is indeed turbo. We tried to give you, we tried to give you the time to get right. We tried to give you the time to sort of to test what your sort of threshold and what your tolerance was, and you just can't play. And what we need you to be is as close to 100% as possible. The problem is that the NBA has this stupid 65-game rule, and Denny is the betting favorite right now to win MIP, and you better believe that hardware stuff means, if nothing else, this season, when he has been so good and a first-time All-Star, he deserves that recognition. And if the NBA didn't have stupid rules, there would be even less, just sit and get right. You're still the most improved player. If you can play meaningful games at the very end of the season to get the Blazers where they need to go, great. But I think that's part of the calculation, is that he would be sacrificing the deserved recognition he gets. And also they're just, they're just not very good without him. You saw how they played against the Suns. I haven't mentioned him, but like, they could use Shaedon Sharpe. Like, I mentioned all the players the Suns were missing. They could use Shaedon Sharpe. They it's probably the Blazers' second best offensive player, right? But like they need guys who can score. Like, the defense was horrendous against the Nuggets, but like, they just need a little more offense right now too, and they're not exactly getting that. So I think a couple things here. One, there is a risk, sort of broadly speaking, of like, you shut Denny. Say the MIP doesn't actually matter to Denny at all. He knows how good he is. He made the All-Star team. He's going to make another one. Like, say it doesn't matter at all, and it might not. I assume it does. But that's a total guess, total conjecture, and perhaps unfair. And I apologize if it's unfair. But like, if I think even if they shut Denny down, there's going to be some tough games, right? They will be really, really hard pressed to beat the actual good teams they play. But the schedule softens up so much in March that, like, if you could just get him, if he just needs time, and at this point he probably, he took a week and it didn't work, and then he got another week and it didn't work. So it might just be, it might be more time than he has allotted to him during the NBA season, right? Like, he might need a full month and just doesn't have that, right? But I don't think they're in danger of slipping out of the playoffs or the play-in if Denny doesn't play. Like, the other teams behind them are not motivated to climb up in the standings. I think what you're sacrificing if you shut Denny down for an extended period of time is a chance to move up in the standings. And the Warriors, of course, like, look terrible coming out of the break and then beat the Nuggets in the second game. It's like, what the hell? And the Clippers, as long as they have Kawhi Leonard, are going to be good. They're like, their game just ended right now. So I was recording this during the fourth quarter of this game. Let's see in real time. Did the Clippers win? They lost to the Orlando Magic, so they suck, actually. Kawhi had 37. No, but like, it's so now the Clippers are 1-2 since the break. But the Blazers were in position to climb, if they were healthy, to get past both those teams, to get past the Warriors and get past the Clippers, and like, and make it happen, and end up in 8th and have like a one game against this Phoenix Suns team in order to make the 7th seed in the West, right? And that would be quite an accomplishment, all things considered. But I think if Denny sits, and if he needs to miss one game, right, he should miss 6. They should give him 2 weeks. They should sit him down for as long as he will possibly listen to them sitting down, right? He didn't play in the second half of back-to-back when they were heading into the All-Star break. Like, clearly they've been trying to manage this injury for a long time. It just hasn't worked. Maybe you just need more time. I don't think they're going to, what I think you're sacrificing is just saying, okay, we're going to end up 10th, and our path to the playoffs is a lot harder. That might be the cold, hard truth that you just have to deal with, right? And I think the other thing at play here is just, it underscores what a bummer this year has been, and just in terms of timing of injuries. Scoot getting hurt and then missing a huge chunk of time. And then when he gets back, Shaedon Sharpe having this calf injury, and now Denny getting hurt. And it's just like, the chances that you're completely healthy at any point during the year or in any NBA season is always relatively slim, but particularly just for like the core of this Blazers group. We're now, deep into year 3 of the Shaedon Sharpe, Scoot Henderson experience. We just haven't seen them play much together. Like, we haven't seen like a big old stretch of them playing tons of minutes together, much less now that Denny has emerged as an all-star, the two of them playing next to Denny to figure out what it looks like with Tumani, with Donovan Clingan. Sure, that group played, a little bit at the end of last year together, but not like really as Denny's emergence and like as an on-ball like dominant guy and what that looks like. And I think regardless of I think the truth is here, you just aren't going to get that this year. You aren't going to get it. I think the Blazers' ultimate goals are not totally in jeopardy by this Denny injury, but it's hard to see them being the surprise team that they looked like. They had put themselves into position to be a real surprise. It was going to be Phoenix and Portland in the 7-8 play-in game, and it was going to be like surprise versus surprise for a chance to finish 7th in the West. Like, that was going to be an opportunity that was absolutely on the table for the Blazers. And assuming that Denny is going to at least be out a little bit or just like isn't himself, they're just not going to get back there. And so now the test is, can they play with their pants on fire? Can they play? Can they be the team that plays so hard and is so challenging to play against that they can kind of stay afloat longer than you think. Because the way they played coming out against Denver was they just rolled over like dogs. They did, they did not look competitive. They got punked right out of the gym. And then they played just kind of an ugly game, but found a way to win against Phoenix. That's good stuff. Find a way to win. Can they turn that into who they are? Can the Denny-less, Shaden Sharp-less team move forward and find a way to be grimy enough to stay in the mix? Because say Denny just needs to miss, Minnesota's game and this long road trip, right? That 6 straight games. And then he can come back and be like, 95% of himself. Then they're in business, right? If he needs basically 2 weeks, then you'll be all right. Then you'll be okay. You'll have a chance. If he can't be, that's a whole other thing. But I think the best sort of path forward for them, if from like right now, and we don't know what the sort of deal with Denny's status is, and I can't imagine the Trailblazers give us that information in the near future, but perhaps they will, is give Denny time. Give him as much time as you possibly can, knowing that you're not really in jeopardy of slipping too far down, and that if you can stay afloat and everyone knows what the deal is and plays with a sense of urgency and purpose, and Tiago Splitter can get that out of this team, you get back and you make a mid-March to mid-April, a 1-month push to see if your dreams are going to be there. Warriors still beat up. Clippers are still, worse than they were before, albeit not terrible. But I think right now what it is for the Blazers as I stand here recording on a Sunday evening is like, can you make the most out of the next 2 weeks and then come up for air and figure out where you are? If the bottom hasn't fallen out in the next 2 weeks, and it might not, the schedule softens up enough in March that you feel like you're going to be able to rip off a bunch of wins at the end of the year, and that you might be able to close really strong and still get a hold of all your dreams. But right now you have to be smart about your health, both as a franchise and as Deni Avdija, and Denny probably has to admit what smart about his health is. And then everybody else, and that really starts with the coaching staff and then trickles down the whole roster, has to understand what is at stake, and if they want to be a team that chases having a fun end to the season, or, gets on the off-ramp and heads to warmer climes for a little bit. That is going to do it for today's program. Tomorrow's show, don't miss it. Nate Duncan from the Dunked On universe is going to join the show for his annual appearance. It's going to be a whole bunch of fun. It's what we do 5 days a week, wherever you get podcasts, also on YouTube. I appreciate you listening. I will talk to you soon.